What's up, guys? This is Deep Wood FoW with Mike,
And Joe.
and we're here discussing Battle for Attoractia, the fourth installment of Alice Cluster. It's coming up right around the corner, so we decided to do a top 5 best cards from the set and bottom 5 worst cards from the set. And we'll kick it right off, starting with
Allosaurus, Avatar of Destruction. 5 mana, 1,000 with swiftness that plays a fire spell from your removed area that costs 3 or less.
So this is obviously a really important card for the Allosaurus builds right now because they lost Blazer with Grim Cluster cycling out. So he's very comparable to Blazer by stats and by ability, except he also gets spells in the late game.
He's basically the closer that Allosaurus deck needed because they lost their endgame with Blazer. And the only other card they had in the deck was Ouroboros to really close it out, and a lot of times that wound up getting milled. So it's a good card for them so that they can keep tempo, and these are the targets that it's got that really make it shine, especially Flame King Shout. It's going to deal 400 AoE to opponent Resonators and cast something from the hand that costs 3 or less and gives it swiftness. So you're going to get a lot of damage out of that.
Especially getting it for free.
Yeah, all of that for free.
And obviously Blood Boil's a new card coming out in the next set. Being able to deal 600 to the opponent and preventing life gain is really nice. But also having that +8/+8 on Allosaurus as soon as it comes out means that you have a 5 mana 18/18 with swiftness.
Yeah, so you're dealing a lot to the face, and that can easily close out games.
And then of course Burn to Cinders is just really good. We lost Flame of Outerworld from Grim Cluster, but being able to make a J-Ruler lose Imperishable and then swiftness it down is really, really effective.
Man, in a wild format where you can play a Flame of Outerworld with Allosaurus, that's also pretty good.
That's actually very cute.
Yes.
And we're moving on to the 5th worst. We've got High Speed Dash.
And that says, put your J-Ruler into your area as a ruler, or return target Resonator you control to its owner's hand. Both of those abilities are things that we already have. And they're on Regalia. Free Regalia, no less.
Of course, being the fact that each of these Regalia has the text that's on High Speed Dash in one way or another, whether it be giving Imperishable, doing the switch something to from a J-Ruler to a regular ruler, but only for Gil Lapis, and then obviously tap, banish, and return something to the hand. All those effects are free. And then here's High Speed Dash, making you do it for 1 green.
If it actually let you do both at the same time, I could see it being almost reasonable, but there's still not it doesn't fit a niche at all to make you actually want to play it.
Exactly. So that's on our 5th worst card of the set. Moving on to our 4th best card of the set, we have something that's really crazy.
And it's Interdimensional Escape. 3 mana. Each player chooses a Resonator they control, and then destroy the rest of them, pretty much.
It's really, really good AoE. Forceful doesn't have a lot of serious AoE, like to the extent of this card, especially not Light, since Light lost Sign to the Future.
Sign to the Future was a big side deck card in the last format, so having this new 3 mana one is going to make a big difference for Light because it's going to allow them to stay in the game longer.
Especially because the conditions aren't as strict as Sign to the Futures.
Yeah, but you're going to want to try to play with like 3-ish Resonators to get good value out of it.
And of course it's comparable to Soul Hunt being a non-targeting removal, so seeing those two together in the same format is going to be interesting.
Especially since Soul Hunt's such a prevalent card for this format, I can't imagine that Interdimensional Escape would be a bad card.
And moving on to our 4th worst card, we have Spectating Magician.
And this card is pretty bad. It takes a 1 mana cost spell that's in your graveyard, and you can play it. But you can add any spell to your hand, but it lets you play the 1 mana once for free, so that'd be the only real reason to play it. But the bad thing about this card is that there's nothing really worth playing.
We've got the top 3 best 1-drop cards being Scorn of Dark Alice, Alice's Castling, and Rapid Growth, but each of these is pretty weak in its own regard.
I mean, you're not going to play 4 mana, 4/8, discard a card.
That's really weak.
Yeah, we had Nyarlathotep in last format, and that was a 6/6?
An 8/8.
8/8, and that was tributing a dark.
Yeah.
It's so much better.
And obviously Alice's Castling, it's like, oh, you can get a 4-drop out of your hand. Then why wouldn't you just play the 4-drop? There's no reason to put that into the deck. And Rapid Growth is 400, which is obviously nice, but you'll have to have a board in order to play it first.
Yeah, because it's not like Spectating Magician has swiftness. Otherwise, that'd be okay. An 8/12 on the first time you play it.
That'd be interesting. I don't think it'd be great, though. So,
Yeah.
Spectating Magician, fairly weak. Stats don't back up that ability. It's just not going to see a lot of play. Or any play.
Right.
Got our third best being Black Moonbeam.
Oh, this is a fun card. Destroy target J-Ruler. Players cannot chase this card, and the only thing bad about it is that it's 2 black. It's a little expensive.
It's 2 black, but again, that ability is insane.
Yeah, pretty much it. The only other thing that just straight up destroys J-Rulers is Blazer, but this one says you can't chase to it, and that makes a big difference.
Especially when it comes into Refrain. The fact that you can hit Refrain with Black Moonbeam and not let it put it back onto its ruler side means that you just straight up neuter the Reflect Refrain deck.
Basically, when you're playing with decks like this, like Refrain is going to have a hard time flipping against black decks just because of the threat of Moonbeam, especially in like game 2 or 3, because you don't actually have to play it. Just the threat of it should make them not want to flip into Refrain.
And obviously the last card that said players cannot chase to this card that was really relevant in removing rulers was Flame of Outer World. Black Moonbeam is going to be a fairly solid replacement for it. Obviously not as versatile, but still extremely effective, and effective in its own ways, especially the fact that Flame couldn't hit Refrain, Black Moonbeam can.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
We're most going to see this card on the side, but it's a big thing against J-Rulers like Refrain and J-Rule strategies like Sylvia.
Alright, and on to our third worst, we have the name card of the set, Attoractia, Dimension of the Seven Kings, and Illusory Demonic Globe Attoractia.
Alright, so this is a lot of text, but basically I'm going to cut it down into the face of it is a 2-mana field that draws a card, and the back side of it is a 7-mana Regalia with a win condition that requires you to remove a Resonator or Addition or Regalia. But they all have to be different attributes, and you need to remove 6 different attributes, and once you have one attribute removed, you can't remove that attribute anymore. It's really complicated, and it's just too much, I'd say.
It's just a very unlikely win condition. Obviously, the 7 cost is insane, but we have picked out a few cards that could potentially make it work.
If you wanted to make a deck out of this, you would have to play Gil Lapis, which lets you flip the 2-mana field into its Regalia for nothing.
Yeah.
And once you do that, then you can start trying to banish things. So that's why we got Priscia, Beast Queen, in hiding, since you can make herself any attribute, so you can fill out the costs. But if you're going to play Exodia like that, you're going to wind up losing, because there's not a lot of ways to keep yourselves alive in this game.
Exactly. Like, if you're brave, please make this work. We want to see it happen.
Yeah, you've got the options for it. We discussed it, and we think it's possible to do. You just got to find someone that's not playing fast enough. Like, if you play against, like, Vlad, you might be able to pull it off.
If Vlad was legal.
Yeah.
Sad face. But, again, if it's won by artwork, though, this artwork is phenomenal.
Yeah, this is probably one of the best arts in the set.
But, unfortunately, this card will most likely, like 99% sure, this will not see any play.
I agree.
And on to our second best, we've got Small Assistant Mariabella.
Oh, I like this card. When this card gets put into a graveyard, you get to search Maribel the Steel Doll or Insane Self-Aware Machine Maribel. And when this card's in your graveyard, so, after it just fell into the grave so you could search it, you can produce 2 will to either activate Maribel, put it into the field, like, with its effect, or play the actual Maribel Insane Self-Aware Machine, which is an amazing card in itself. So
obviously she's multi-talented. She's got a lot of really good interactions with machine decks. She herself is a 2-mana machine, which combos with some of the other mechanics, which is really, really cool. Maribel the Steel Doll, if you're playing the old Seven Kings Machina, you're going to basically be activating Maribel the Steel Doll as a 1,000 swiftness creature for 1 mana. That's insane. That's actually amazing.
And since, how Regalia works, since it sits on the field, basically you're getting to play 1,000 swiftness for free.
Which is incredible.
Right.
And obviously you can keep playing her over and over again, and you can just keep training out the Maribellas, stack your Maribels up, and then just... She's really good for tempo. She's a 5/5 body for 2, which honestly is not bad.
And there's also looking at Maribel and Insane Self-Aware Machine, there's going to be strategies out there that's going to let you play Insane Self-Aware Machine and, get some more effects on it. Just because, it's a cool effect and people like Maribel in general.
Yeah, we're gonna see a lot of what she does. We're going to see a lot of the Steel Doll. We're going to see a lot of the Self-War Machine. Little known fact, Maribel can also help you pay for the Banish ability where it destroys target regalia. So you can destroy things for free. You're not probably going to do that, but...
I mean, hey, it's an option.
Yeah, if you need to do it for free, you can. Which is obviously super cool. So, Maribella, small assistant Maribella, definitely deserves a top 2 spot. Out of all the machine support, I think she's one of the best.
Yeah, it's definitely a good card, and I think it's definitely going to see play.
Alright, and second worst, we have Last People of Gloria. I'll let Joe take over this, because he has a... I wouldn't call it a soft spot for this card.
It's like a hard spot for this card, but that sounds awful too. Basically, this card is horrible beyond measure. So it's 4 mana for a 0/1000. That is horrible value already. You can pay 4 mana for so many amazing cards. And its effect is when this card enters your field or leaves your field for a non-field zone, you gain 700 life. So I don't know what they're expecting with this card that would have made it broken. Like, what, are you going to keep bouncing it back to your hand to keep gaining 700? There's a lot of cards out there that if you just want a wall, you can get a wall for a lot cheaper and a lot better. Let's see the page.
We have compiled a list of all cards with 0 attack and any number of defense from Alice Cluster and compiled them neatly on this page.
And the best thing about this is none of them are even close to 4 mana. And if you go by Artificial Moon, which is in the top middle left area...
That's no moon. That's a space station.
That's an 015. Like, that's going to block pretty much anything you would ever need to block.
Why do you need to gain life if
you're never going to get hit?
If you're walling up that hard.
Right. And you have things like Ruck Egg. Ruck Egg is a blocker that draws a card pretty much. It's almost better than drawing a card because you get to pick the card.
You got Witch of the Night, which is the 1 mana 0/8. Those are some really solid stats.
It also gives -2/-2 to things, so you can prevent Lancelots from... -2 attack. You can prevent Lancelots from getting their buffs early. You have...
Heart-Stirring Sage.
Yeah.
Not seen a lot, but again, it's a 0/6 that can give itself 6 attack if it taps. It's a cool card, but it's obviously... It's not great, but it's still better than Last People of Gloria.
And that's a big thing, so... Last People of Gloria is really awful. It could be number 1, but we picked out something special for number 1.
Yeah, so again, comparison. 0/1000 for 4, bad. All these, better.
There's even some bad cards on this page, but they're still better than that card because they're cheaper.
And that's saying something.
Yeah.
And then for our number 1 spot, we have Titania, Prideful Queen, with a hint of Oberon in the corner there.
Yeah. We're basically just saying that the new fairy support is amazing, but Titania on her own just takes the cake because she also is a blue resonator, and blue has been in dire need of some type of threat to make people want to play blue. And this card does that. It's a 12/12 with flying and gives +2/+2 to all other water and fairy resonators, and it decreases its own costs.
So she's playable in both water decks and in the fairy archetype decks, which is amazing.
Yep.
And then Oberon's over in the corner. He gives fairies quick cast, which is obviously really, really strong, especially because they're so cheap most of the time. Mm-hmm. But we had to take our pick, and Titania is just Titania, whatever.
Yeah.
She's just... Honestly, she's just better generic support for most blue decks. Oberon's good, but Titania is just, like, all good all the time.
Right.
And obviously we have her comparable to Gwyber over on the right there. Gwyber, you can pay 2 less for each resonator that entered your field this turn, and that remains on the field. But obviously with Titania, if you already have an established board, you can just drop her right in.
Yep, the idea is that you don't need a big hand to make Titania effective, but you do need a big hand to make Gwyber effective.
And then I put Reflect on this page just because Reflect does have the Recover Target Resonator at the end of the turn ability, which can obviously offset Titania's summon cost.
Also, some of the fairy cards say that you can block while rested, which is just great for her.
It's stupid. It's so strong.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a really efficient deck, so keep a lookout for it in the upcoming format.
And then...
we've got the absolute worst, the bottom of the bottom.
Moria of the 7 Lands.
And also whatever it flips into, because it doesn't matter, you're giving it away when you tap for stone.
So, obviously, we should probably explain this card, because people are like, oh, but I like some of these cards. And we have to say, we like the concept behind these cards. It's just...
the execution on it is absolutely atrocious.
So, first of all, Memory of the Seven Lands is a ruler with no effect.
Right.
And Judgment 4.
So, Judgment 4 is awful. That's one of the slowest in the game right now.
Besides Sylvia, who is just...
Sylvia is also 4, but Sylvia also gets a lot more effects than these cards. And she has effects on the front side of her, where she does mana fixing. So, that's a big deal, especially when we only have Ruler's Memoria as a multicolored stone.
And then, of course, when it flips into these heroic spirits here, they only get their effects based on what Memoria
how many of
you
the
have.
stones. So you have to tap into stones. Tapping into the stones means that they know which one you're playing, unless you play multiples of them, but why would you? That doesn't make sense. So yeah, like...
And if you have 4 of the stone, you get an insane effect, but what's the actual chance that out of 10 stones you will get those exact 4 stones in a row?
Right, because you have to tap into them 4 times and then flip. And then flip on 5.
It's so little value for the amount of effort that you have to put into it.
You're going to get sacked by this like maybe once if you see some guy at your locals play it, but that's about it.
Honestly, you will never see anybody really do anything good with them. Another problem that we have with this card is that they get their names when they're on the J-Ruler side, but if Memoria of the Seven Lands had the ability, like gave them the rulers' names on the front, maybe it would see some play, because the reason
there's some efficiency there. Like, you play Arla because the bows are really amazing early game destruction.
And if you have to wait until turn 5 to Judgment into this new Arla and just then you play the bows, you're not having a good time at all with that.
The bows aren't even useful on turn 5.
Unless you're facing Guibers down.
Right. Then you can, one-shot the Guibers, but still, you could have been playing the original Arla and do it a lot better.
And then there's the Machina that adds things to the hand.
And there's Melgus. Melgus, I wouldn't even see you play normally, but this Melgus isn't even that much better since it's so slow.
And I guess the Rizard is interesting because it takes the place that the old Kage used to take, where you pay 1 to put things in the chance standby area instead of paying 2. But you have to wait until turn 4 to do it, so at that point, why are you even mitigating the cost with his effect?
Right, and Faria...
Bad.
Yeah, no one's really liked Faria anyway.
So bad.
It's the life gain stuff too, so it's like,
Oh, she combos with Last Night of Gloria. So,
go away.
For comparison, here are the bad rulers, and here are the good versions of all of them.
So you can see that the best thing about all these rulers, they all get God's Arts.
The other ones don't. The other ones get 1 effect when they enter the field, and that's basically it.
Yeah, and other things like Rizard has Imperishable. That's amazing for him.
Especially with Black Moonbeam coming out. Natural Imperishable is insane. There's Artemis, the God's Bow down in the corner there. Obviously the best reason to play Arla.
Yep. So pretty much we can't give a good reason for you to ever play any of these rulers, which is just such a shame. There was a way that we thought that could make it better, which is, putting their names on the front of it, maybe decreasing the judgment cost so you could do it earlier. But it's just so underwhelming.
It's absolutely underwhelming. Obviously, the flavor behind it all is really cool, and I think that with the proper execution, it could have been a really nice starting tool for a lot of players, but this is just so poorly executed. This is not what we want to see from our rulers.
If this was like a starter deck set for people to get into the game, I could see it making more sense.
All I have to say is that I feel bad for whoever pulls the God Pack of 5 of these rulers and 5 of their Memoria.
Or even worse, if they get an Uber of this, because you could have gotten an Uber from another set.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
And then we've got some of our honorable mentions here. Things that didn't really make it in, but things that needed to be talked about, because they're still pretty good cards.
We're not going to go into too deep detail, but there's Guardian Angel Raphael. There's the new Kaguya. Down the Drain's really good. That's just destroy target fire resonator, so that's going to give a lot of removal to blue. Valentina, it's a little bit cheaper version of what we already have, but There's Earthbound Wingman. And then there's Lapis's Dark Storm.
Obviously, a lot of these are replacing old cards. Lapis's Dark Storm is a perfect replacement to Spiral of Despair. Just a little bit better, in my opinion, just because one of the cards is at random. Earthbound Wingman.
And hey, if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, for Lapis's Dark Storm, it's pretty much Duncan Duo.
Yeah. For 2 mana, yeah. And Earthbound Wingman obviously is sort of a Gretel replacement in a way.
Kinda. Basically, on 2 mana, you get to play something that's going to recover you a mana next turn.
That's a 5/5 flyer. That is not those stats are not slouching at all.
Yeah, it's just that with the fairy support, it might be a little underwhelming. That's why I didn't make it into our list.
Possessor of Love is going to be an insane trading tool. People are never going to want to attack into it because either they'll never want to attack into it or they'll have to always play around it.
Mm-hmm.
Down the drain.
Right.
Destroy Lancelots, that's fine.
For 1 mana.
Kaguya is going to be really cool just because of the synergy with the rabbits. The rabbits are a very interesting archetype that's coming out, and I think that we're going to see a lot of people trying out that deck with the ruler Kaguya.
Yep. And Guardian Angel Raphael is just another efficient stun card.
Yep. It stuns out the Regalia during your turn. It stuns out the abilities of J-Rulers on your turn. So, obviously, if you're facing down Reflect, they can't cancel anything. They can't bounce anything on your turn. It's really crazy. And she looks kind of like Bayonetta.
Yeah.
Except just more angel-y and less witchy.
Yeah.
And that's our honorable mentions, and that's the end of the video. We hope you guys enjoyed this little run-through of the new set.
And I can't wait to see some of the new brews that you guys come up with. If you guys got any, leave them down in the comment section below. We'll try and check them all out if we can.
All right, and this is Mike.
And Joe from Deep Wood FoW.
Signing out.